Welcome to the Resilient Butterfly Podcast. My goal is to share inspiring stories of healing and recovery through many diverse approaches and models. Our guests bring incredible lived experiences, insights, and our professional expertise, each with their own unique path. While we highlight and celebrate these stories, our intention is to inform, inspire, and demonstrate resilience and creativity. This podcast does not endorse any one approach. We believe there is more than one way to heal, and we're here to showcase the resilience and possibilities that exist. Hello, everyone. Thank you for coming today. This is Resilient Butterfly Podcast, and I have today Thatcher Shively as my guest. And Thatcher actually has been working with Feinberg Consulting for 10 years. Yeah. So an amazing individual. Everyone loves Thatcher, I believe. And Thatcher is a name that everyone can remember. So I appreciate you coming on and telling your story. Yeah. We are here to talk about hope, resilience, and recovery, and having you told your story, telling your story, and what it is about being a recovery coach, knowing your story and being able to work with people as well as interventions that you've done with us. Yeah. So where should we begin?
I think it's probably at least funny, if not anything, to begin with. I never thought I would be considered a resilient butterfly. I never thought that would be a lot of labels. But
I think there are male and female butterflies.
Oh, are there?
I don't know.
It's weird how I immediately went to like it's only if there's only female butterflies.
I know, because they're so beautiful, right?
There you go, and they're gentle.
Your producer's going to fact check that real quick.
Yeah, you should. Yeah, that's interesting. So yeah, I'm a butterfly. Where do we start?
Resilient, you are.
I am, yes, resilient. There's many things, and I guess you could say resilience. Having resilience is one of them. Well, first off, thank you for having me. This is really cool. I appreciate it. Yeah, I'm grateful to be here. Where do we start? I don't know. I mean,
well, yeah. I know that we met, Steve Feldman and I met you more than 10 years ago.
Around 2014.
Through a gratitude program. And many of us that have gone through gratitude have been through some events in our life that took us to this transitional period of time. And we all have stories.
Sure.
And I guess, where does your story begin? What do you remember, young? And because there's a lot of trauma involved in our stories.
Sure.
So
yeah. And I think, my story begins, and yes, we met during that, in gratitude training, which is a powerful leadership / transformational program that really kind of has you see how you do life, how you experience the world, and gives you tools for navigating the world in a certain way. And to your point, I never realized how much my story impacted my perspective and influenced and informed how I navigated the world, really. Right. And so my story begins, I was born and raised in Florida. I'm a natural native Floridian. There are a few of us out there. I always like to joke, that we're like the Florida Panther. They're there, but you just don't see them that often. And so, I grew up, I'm a kid. I was born in the 70s, but grew up in the 80s, which is interesting, right? We were before the computers and technology and screens and all of that stuff. So, in some respects, my childhood was quite normal. And in other respects, it was anything but. I will say this, because to your point, everyone's got a story, right? And so, it's important to, have witnesses to that and to talk about it and to assign language to it and, have it hit oxygen and talk about it. And, it's not something that, I'm going to maybe talk about some things, but I'm not a victim to it either necessarily, right?
Well, what I'm trying to really bring guests on that I know that are no longer a victim to their story, but tell their story in a way that shows the resiliency of coming out of that victimhood of what it has been.
Yeah. And I think the first thing that I kind of noticed as a kid that things were just really confusing to me. I always knew I was loved. My parents did a really good job of communicating to me that I was loved. And that always stuck with me, and that matters. People that say that words don't matter, that's just, I don't know.
Of course they do.
Yeah. They do, and my parents were good at that. And there was a lot of chaos and confusion. And I was just a really confused kid. I saw a lot of things go on, a lot of chaotic stuff. My mother was really mentally ill. And I've been told, and it tracks, that she had a personality disorder as well. She also went through periods where there was drug abuse involved, and that made for a really chaotic and confusing kind of upbringing in childhood. I never knew what to expect or what to get.
You didn't know whether the personality was her personality or the drug use personality, right?
Yeah, or
the mental health personality.
Yeah, more probably the latter, because I don't have a ton of. Yeah, probably more the latter. Either way, as a kid, it's really confusing when you're trying to make sense of the world, right? And I took on all of the burdens that I kind of saw and experienced. I took all those on as my own. I think as a lot of kids, we've learned in recent kind of trauma education that like kids take in the world and they assign blame to themselves because they can't really make their parents wrong, because if they did that, their whole world would collapse.
Right.
And so I just learned from a very early age. And by the way, thank God for my father, because he was a stable, he raised us primarily, and he was a stable force. My parents divorced when I was very, very, very little. I have no memories of them being together as a married couple.
Were you living with your mother or father? Or
Father, yeah. We would visit they would, even at some periods, they like had they lived like a few doors down from each other. At one point, and this is pretty crazy now to think about it, they were actually roommates when I was around 12.
Oh, wow.
They got a house and rented a house together, and they lived on opposite sides of the home.
Wow.
Yeah.
But you didn't know that was not normal, or,
Great
it was
point.
just, right?
No, I had no, it was just, I often like to say a fish doesn't really know what water is because that's all it knows, and to me, it was really normal. But my father was a stable force. My mother was, and listen, my mom at times could be really fun. Like I've been told she was bipolar and also had a personality disorder. But with that, sometimes when there's not complete and total kind of like chaos, there can be a lot of fun.
Sure.
And she was, fly by the seat of her pants, and we would camp out in the backyard, and she would make us dinner, and we would just see a lake on the side of the road and just pull over and just jump in it, like in the middle of the day, like a Wednesday,
right?
And so it was an interesting mix. But yeah, there was, again, I think what I realized early on. Because another thing with my dad, he was a stable force, but he also, we struggled financially, and I always kind of, we were always trying to make ends meet and playing catch up, always. And so again, what I learned very early on was, well, there's a lot going on. Let me just try to I'll handle everything. And I really created this kind of model of just myopic kind of tunnel vision where if something is broke, I'll fix it. If I need something, I'll get it. I think I created this kind of self-sufficiency, this self-reliance, probably in an age that's a little bit too early to have that.
Sure.
And listen, it's worked for me in many aspects of my life, so I'm not here to demonize that.
Many children of alcoholics or drug addiction, or mental health, that becomes their role.
Yeah, you just, and it's a survival strategy. And I like I said, I honor that. I don't demonize it. And I can see as an adult how, if I'm not careful, I'll still have blinders on. And I'll only kind of focus on what I want, what I think, what I feel, what I need, right? And not really let the outside world kind of penetrate that.
Got it.
And so, yeah, it was, growing up was interesting. And I saw my mom have a lot of different husbands and boyfriends kind of coming in and out. And it was funny because I would see, and I had an older brother who was got into trouble really early. I have a sister, and we share both of our mom and dad, but my brother, technically he's my half brother. We have the same mother, but not the same father. I never looked at it that way. And I don't think he did either. It's just never, he was my brother. I mean, there was no
How much older was he?
He was 4 years older. Yeah, he was 4 years older. And but seeing him, he started to get into trouble. And I think he went to his first rehab like 14,
Wow.
in juvie and stuff like that. And I would see that. I would see my mom. I would see her. My mom was married like 4 times. My dad was married 4 times as well. And I would see my mom's kind of craziness and her husbands and boyfriends. And I remember saying to myself, that's never going to be me. Never going to be me, And I think what happened was, as a result of that, I was a really serious kid, like very serious, I was pretty intense. I was a committed kid. I would find these activities, right, and just go all in, whether it was baseball, bikes, fishing. I would find, and part of that's just
and
being
your music too.
music. Right? Yeah. I discovered music, and a lot of that's just being a normal 12-year-old discovering what he likes and doesn't like, or young person. But there was a seriousness to it, almost obsessive. I would get involved in these pursuits, and I would just like lose myself.
Is that like your pickleball now?
That's like my pickleball now. It's like my pickleball now. Yeah, I'm lost in pickleball. That's for sure. Yeah, no, it's and I would find these things, and I would just exhaust them. I would wring out every ounce of pleasure that I could, and then I would toss it like next, and then and then I discovered, to your point, music, and to me that was like, oh, this is my saving grace. This is going to get me out of this environment. I love doing it. I was really good. My dad was a drummer, technically still is. My mom had been a singer. They had been in a band.
Oh wow!
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
Yeah, my mom was she was really talented. Actually,
But that's how they met. Through.
I think so.
Yeah.
I want to say, yeah, and I know for a while they were in a band together. I don't have much memory. I don't have any memory of that, but so music came really natural to me, and it was instinctive. I was a drummer, and I could just sit down and play, and I had my dad to help me and show me some stuff, and I got very serious about that, starting at around 13, and did it in high school, and all the while stayed away. I was pretty puritanical. Like, I didn't mess with drugs or alcohol, because remember, I had seen my mom, I had seen my brother. I was never going to be like that, And then, so instead, like, all of my energy and attention went to music. It just did. And good kid, rule follower. High school was just an avenue for me to explore music. I actually I did bad in school, and I tried. Like, it just didn't click with me. Like, I would do my homework. Like, I would study, and I would get C's. If I was lucky, I'd get a B. Every once in a while, an A would sneak in there. But I was like a C plus student, and it was strange because I tried. I really did, and I think,
Was that frustrating for you?
Yeah.
Or did you just acknowledge it and move on?
I tell you what was frustrating was because I did have like a mild form of dyslexia, and I got held back. I didn't get held back. I had to go to summer school, or I would have gotten held back in 3rd and 4th grade. And I had a problem reading things, and I still get stuff mixed up every once in a while. My wife likes to make fun of me. And I think I created this narrative that I'm just not too smart. And I was kind of okay with that, right? But I was always with things having to do creatively, like music and work and reading and writing, I was always okay at, even though I was flip words around. I was always pretty good at that. But by the time I got to high school, it didn't really matter, because I knew I was good at playing the drums, and I was confident in that. And so all the other stuff just kind of didn't really matter. And I ended up getting a music scholarship to a good school at the University of South Florida. And I had an opportunity to study there, and I'd studied jazz and classical drums, and I thought I had arrived and made it. And I was pursuing.
What was your end goal?
I think to play drums professionally. Yeah. And I'd already been doing it in making money playing drums and giving kids lessons. And,
wow.
Yeah. And music school is really hard. It's like a bunch of nerds meets Lord of the Flies.
Yeah, I've heard it's not easy to get into a music school. It's a very high competitive area, and then there are very few that actually make it.
It's tough. You're 100% right. And I was lucky. I got a scholarship to go. But you're right. It's like it's your life. And you're gunning to be like the first chair. So you're either trying to get it, or then when you do get it, you're trying to hold on to it.
So I have a fun fact. I was first chair
I think
flute.
I knew that. I think I knew that.
You did know that?
I think I did know that.
And then I gave it up to a friend, but that's another story. But
why would you give up your first chair slot?
That's part of my a story.
Yeah.
It's part of my stuff.
See, to me, and I get it. Like, you're probably young.
It was
right?
my best friend.
Yeah. To me, that's crazy. Like, no, you don't give that up.
I know. And so, that was part of my story. I couldn't be more than somebody else. Yeah. So, but go ahead.
Yeah, I had no problem being more than somebody else. Like I was gunning for that. And then, it's a pretty classic story, if you will. I was in my sophomore year studying. I was doing well in school, in music school. And then, I discovered drugs and alcohol. And I tell you,
was that going to a party, or how did that start?
Yeah, the first memory that I have that like really something clicked inside of me, where I had this kind of moment where I realized that drinking and I'll be candid, doing drugs kind of fixed something that I didn't even know was broken. Was at a party. It was a Tuesday night. It was a neighbor, and I had heard these kids partying for weeks, and I was a good student. I would be in bed, wake up early, and I'd always hear them, and I would be like, what are these guys doing? Like, it's a school night. Like, it just, wow. And then finally, I guess I couldn't take it.
So I'm curious in regard to the drugs that were available. This is in the 80s, right?
No, this would be, I'm not that old, Pam. This would be the 90s. Like 95 to be exact.
Somebody else's story. Okay.
Yeah, 95.
Oh, right. You were born in the 70s.
Yeah.
So 90s.
90. This was. I'm really generally pretty good at day. This was like fall in 95.
Got it.
Yeah, I'm good with that stuff.
So what were the drugs that were at this party?
This particular drug was cocaine, which never ended up being my thing. But it wasn't about and that's the deal. It's not about that night. Wasn't about like the drug. It could have been. You could have substituted anything that they had, but the experience that I had that night was. I mean, in very many ways, it was like almost transformational, because when I went over there and I started hanging out with them, and then I did it that night, I was like, for the first time almost ever, I could just.
With cocaine.
Yeah, I could just breathe.
Wow.
Right? And it's almost like
it hit your brain a different way.
Yeah, it was just like this freedom and this release. And like, I don't have to worry about tomorrow. I don't have to worry about what happened the day before. It was like this, my friend says this mindless way to get mindfulness almost. It was like I was right there, and I just felt this. It was almost like this, because again, music school's intense. I was already an intense kid, so this pressure cooker. And then like that night, it just was all released, and it blew my mind that like I could do this on a Tuesday night, and like this was available to somebody just like that. This type of freedom and release, and almost like peace.
And did you recount the next day anything in regard to your mom and your brother's history and how that could have impacted differently?
No, I didn't really.
Didn't even relate.
All the evidence that I had at my disposal from personal experiences, right? Like because I'd seen it as pretty innocuous, right? Like it was one night, it was fun, like But I do think that night I did make like this almost unconscious commitment to like see this thing through. Like whatever's going on here, this freedom, this release, this camaraderie, this care from worry, right? Whatever, like this is, I prefer this over what I had already.
So this is also a very curious question in regard to, many times I've heard that people are seeking a type of spirituality with drugs. Yeah. And would that have been somewhat like that?
Yeah, I think again, I said earlier, right? Like it was almost like a transformation that night, like, right? Like if we break down spirituality for me in part, right? It's many things, right? So this is a simple kind of, but part of what it is the ability to like, see and experience the world differently. That's what spirituality in part offers somebody, offers me. And so that night, it literally like offered me this way, right, to see and experience the world and myself differently. So in a very real way, it was a spiritual kind of thing, right? And then that's what ends up happening is you develop this spiritual relationship with drugs and alcohol. I developed this type of relationship where, it's kind of sad to say now, right? But it gives your life meaning and purpose. And I think the best example of that is, I had gotten into a point, I'm fast forwarding a little bit here, where like my body was physically dependent on drugs and alcohol, right? And
so it became cocaine and alcohol mainly?
Cocaine was, I never, that was just that night. Like it was never, I mean, don't get me wrong. I would have done it if it was around. I wasn't a fan of saying no. But it was never something that like, it just wasn't my thing. The drug that I ended up getting really addicted to was pain medication, opiates. That it turns out that feeling of like that sedation, like really, really appealed. It really quieted things down. And my body it hijacks your body, right? And you know this, right? It
hijacks your brain, which is connected to your body. So, well, physically.
Yeah, I mean, it's physical. It's a mental obsession. It's a physical. It's a physical hijacking of sorts. I mean, there's a reason why people have been abusing opium, for hundreds of years, if not thousands, right? There's a special hooks that gets into you that, in my experience, the other things didn't really kind of get their hooks in me.
How long did it take before that you would say that hook actually
I would say a few months.
Okay.
Yeah, it took a few months of continual use. It was weird because at first I actually didn't like it, right? Why I would keep doing it is a whole nother conversation.
That's interesting.
Yeah, it didn't, and that's just common. I've heard I've heard from other people like it makes you nauseous, it makes you woozy, but
you became dependent on it.
And I became dependent on it, yeah, because I just kept going back to it. I kept running, banging my head into the wall. And yeah, and back to the piece about like developing a spiritual relationship with it, like it gave my life meaning and purpose. But like what was really telling for me was when I would run out and I would start to get physically ill. And that's how I knew I was a drug addict and alcoholic. Not actually when I was using, but when I would stop.
Got it.
That interruption would reveal like the relationship I had to it, right? And I would get really afraid. I would get paranoid. Obsessive, anxious. My body, I would get sick. I would sweat. I would get trembles, right? And that really revealed, like I knew I was a drug addict and alcoholic by the way that I would feel when I would actually get sober.
Got it.
Or try sobriety. And so I would run out and then I would get a phone call that like some was on the way or that I would be able to, get more and I would instantly feel better. Right.
Without even taking it, just knowing that you're going to get it.
Nothing had been introduced to my system in a physical way.
But your mind went there.
But like, yeah. And so like, what is that? Like that to me, and this is just my experience, obviously, right? But that to me is telling that like there was something more going on than just like having a good time, partying. It was there was something really kind of deep and dangerous too going on.
Is this all in your freshman year?
No, we fast forward a little bit. This would be by the time I realized I had like a full blown problem with opiates. Would have been like 2001, 2000, around 2001. And the road to get there was, it was a slow road. It's not like, that Tuesday night back in fall of 95 or whatever. It may have been 96, actually. Whatever. Doesn't really matter. Like it was a slow road, and it just kind of chipped away. I didn't like completely lose myself that night, but there were signs along the way, right? Like that music, right? The scholarship and pursuing that.
Didn't matter to you anymore.
Didn't matter. There came a day where I just essentially realized like this is getting in the way. And I handed it, like quite literally gave it back to the school and said, you can keep this. This is getting, there's a great line in a piece of literature in the 12-step program that I'm involved in that says normal people change their behavior to meet their goals.
Mm-hmm.
But what an alcoholic or, a drug addict does is changes their goals to suit and meet their behavior. And, that's exactly what I ended up doing. And I would experience these consequences along the way from that night and that Tuesday night to like 2002, right? I started getting arrested, right? Relationships. I got kicked out of school completely, right? But I never.
Did your parents know anything what's going on?
I left the house pretty early.
Mm-hmm.
As soon as I joined college, I moved out and never went back. And I was good at what I'll call image management, right? Probably not as good as I like to think I was. But, they may have had an idea.
So the consequences so far have been that you lost your scholarship.
Yep. I gave it up.
You gave it up.
Yeah, there's a difference. I didn't just where is it? Is it in the corner? No, I said, here, you take this back.
And so you were no longer able to really play music.
Nope. Well, I discovered a new passion.
Well,
DJing and raves, which is a lot of fun for someone in my position.
Wow.
This was the 90s.
Sure.
Mid-90s in Florida.
So you were earning money, and that was also a part of the...
It was honestly like an idyllic situation for someone. I had discovered raves and electronic music and ecstasy, which I had come to really love. And I saw a DJ one night at a club, and I was like, what is he doing? It blew my mind. And I was actually genuinely let's put the drugs on the side. The music, the passion aspect was is actually really authentic for me. I was blown away by the music. I was blown away by the sounds. And I walked into a rave I'll never forget. And I heard this music and I never heard it before. And it just blew my mind. I was fascinated. I was intrigued. And I saw the DJ. I was like, what is he doing? And I did some research. Back then we didn't have computers, but I asked questions. I ended up getting turntables and records, and I figured it out. And because I was a drummer, that translated almost directly to being able to know how to mix music and play records and DJ. And so I was a DJ at clubs and raves from 96 to around 2001 to 2. Again, a lot of fun. I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to sit here and demonize all of my past. Definitely wasn't the healthiest thing for a budding drug addict. Because to your point, I was essentially getting paid to party.
Right.
But yeah.
And then other consequences. You mentioned being arrested.
Yeah, I was arrested a few times and
what was the charge?
Yeah, it was, what I like to call, and this is my own language, dumb drug addict charges, like driving on a suspended license, bouncing a check. And then it got a little bit more serious, like possession of controlled substances. Right now, am I a major, trafficker, right, for the cartel? No, but
right, but
the state frowns on you driving around with, narcotics.
So you would get stopped.
Yeah, I got stopped
for not having a license or something like that, and then they find the drug.
Yeah, and then we find and listen, I wasn't in a position of high responsibility. So if I got a ticket and didn't pay it, they would suspend the license, and I didn't take care of it, and I didn't activate my license, and then I get pulled over again. It's like, oh, you're driving on a suspended license, and those things, all of these things just kind of add up.
Sure.
And you get pulled. I got pulled over one time for being high on opiates, and I got a DUI for I didn't breathe,
right?
But they did a test, and so now I have a DUI. I've got a bounce checked. And I've got a driving on a suspended license,
So it's all accumulation.
Just accumulation. Right. I mean, again, am I some grand criminal wizard? No, but I am breaking the law, and I'm not, doing what I need to do to handle it. And so
at that point, you probably, because your parents didn't have the financial ability and you were a DJ.
No.
What kind of defense did you have?
In terms of legal defense?
Yes.
You know what? I think it was public defenders, because it didn't really get serious till around 2002 when the possession's a felony charge. And the driving on a suspended license had turned into a felony because I had three or more.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it bumps up to a felony.
So after the first one, you didn't go, I need to go to the DMV, right?
No, I wasn't walking into any. But that's the thing. If we could just sidebar, that's the thing with alcoholism and drug addiction.
Right.
You have this way of just minimizing, justifying, rationalizing, and not this inability to like adequately appraise what's really going on. Like sober me is like the thought of not paying a ticket, and getting my license suspended is insane.
Right.
But like back then, but not even the faintest or slightest of consideration,
Were your, at that point, were your parents aware? Or still, I mean, you were obviously an adult, so,
No, I would not fill them in on, I did not fill them in until I ended up, because it finally got serious enough, all the charges had racked up. I got put on, probation, and then I violated probation because I couldn't stay sober, even on probation, knowing I was going to have to go see a probation officer and do a drug test. I still, right? And like to a normal person on the outside looking in, they would say, what are you doing?
Sure.
You could go to jail. And I just
had this conversation with Adam Rawson, a criminal defense attorney. Yeah. It's like the court system doesn't really necessarily look at those crimes as any of that are actually, as a result of drug use or alcohol. They're just like, that's a bad person versus, the substances are affecting the mind, which affects the behavior, which then leads to the crimes.
Yeah. No, they see it strictly through the criminal element in terms of like, this is a they broke the law. Right. This is a criminal. Let's apply punishment instead of how can we help this person? I will say though, to your point, I did end up I somehow hired a lawyer. My father may have helped me to get this lawyer. It was, at the time, I think it was $800, whatever. And this guy, his name is Dwight Dudley. He's an attorney in Clearwater, Florida. I've actually reached out to him since. He must have seen or saw something was going on with me because I wasn't very revealing of myself. I wasn't trying to build a case that like, hey, I was still like in denial.
Right.
And he arranged for me to go to a state-run rehab instead of facing the full weight of the potential punishment that could have come with violating my probation.
Wow.
Because technically on paper, I was looking at like real jail time. Right. And he saw, and I had been sitting in there I ended up doing like 6 months while waiting for all this to get sorted out. And I hired him and he arranged for me to kind of forego all that if I went to a state-run.
Good for him.
Yeah, really. Wow. And it's funny. I was so, I guess delusional. Yeah, that's the right word. That like, I was like, why is he I thought it was a plot against me that he was kind of orchestrating.
Right.
Once I finally got sober and my mind clear and I could see things clearly, I was like, this guy probably saved my life.
Sure.
Or,
absolutely.
Or at the very least interrupted like my death.
Right.
And I actually found him on Facebook.
Oh, wow.
And messaged him and said, I don't know if you remember me.
In a way, he did an intervention.
He did.
Right. Yeah. His own way of as a criminal defense attorney.
Yeah.
So speaking of interventions, now that you're an interventionist, how does your work with intervening on someone, your work with the family and getting the person to have an understanding of their life and the denial that they may be in or most likely in. And sometimes the family's still in denial and working through the family system. How does that play into your own recovery and how that works with you?
Yeah, I think my ability, because of my personal experience and now, the last 10 years, my professional experience, it allows me to communicate and educate about what's going on with their loved one. I like to start with the problem with them, right? And give them an idea and an understanding of what's going on with their loved one. It's not a weak moral failing. They're not a bad person. They're sick and they need help, right? And so I think I can communicate to that well. And I have some empathy for what they're going through. I have my own personal, obviously shared experience. And, I have my professional experience. And I think it's really important to start families on addressing what the problem is. Because when you do that, right, they tend to be more open to a solution. If we just go in with the solution, it's like if a bug exterminator came to my house and knocked on my door. It's like, I'm spraying your front yard. And I'd be like, whoa.
What's the problem?
There you go. Okay, can you? And then he said, okay, so sorry, you got termites back here. And then I would be open to the solution that he's offering me, right? And so I think it's really important to at first discuss the problem and then talk about a solution.
A lot of families, because sometimes when they contact us and then a few days later when we're communicating with them again, they may be out of crisis and start minimizing and really bringing to light again some of the things that they shared at the beginning when they were in crisis, reminding them. So this is the fact. Yeah. This is what's going on. Yeah. This, right?
It's so important because you're right. When the house is on fire, like you run out of the house. But what happens when the flames die down? Right? Oh, then you start kind of like looking to just redecorate. And what it's really important to do is that's why the education piece is so important, because in just being honest with love, being firm, but with love, like your son has alcoholism. He has this condition. And what that means is, in spite of, consequences or pain or promises or commitments, chances are, and I try not to be too absolute, but chances are he will return to drinking again and again and again. And it's confusing. I get it as a parent to see these cycles of he's doing okay, he's crashing and burning. He's doing okay. And in these moments of doing okay, to have hope,
sure,
right? And that's a natural thing to have, but we have to be honest about what's going on here. And if he's doing okay right now, awesome. Let's get to work. That's a great time to start like rolling up our sleeves instead of waiting until I don't want to move out of the house when the house is on fire. I want to like
let's make a plan.
Let's make a plan. And so, but back to your early point, education I think is really, really important, and letting them know like what's really going on and what they're up against.
Sure.
Yeah.
And hopefully alleviating some of the consequences that could be down the road, because once those consequences start spiraling out of control, then really the parents or the family don't have the ability to make a plan.
Yeah.
Because the law makes the plan.
Yeah, there you go. They're going to be, let's design a plan rather than being at the default of a plan that's not our idea.
Right.
And I think, and this is something I learned from actually you and Steve, like, let's bring the bottom, let's deliver it to your loved one, right? There's this kind of old idea / philosophy that somebody's got to hit rock bottom. Now, obviously, there is value in someone, going through pain and hitting a bottom, right? And what can come of that, what can be born out of that, right? But in today's day and age, right, that bottom could be something they don't come back from.
Sure.
And
specifically with the heroin and fentanyl, there is such a chance, such a high risk of death. Yeah. And does that have to be the bottom that the family see? Yeah. Versus, let's make a plan. And it's not even that. And long-term use of alcohol can spiral out and someone could die before you even know it, without realizing how seriously ill they are.
Yeah, and and let's say someone doesn't die, right? And why?
There's still a lot of consequences that could occur.
Why prolong that pain?
Right.
And listen, sometimes I suppose in certain scenarios, their journey is their journey, and that's what they need. But let's bring this to them. Let's come together, and because if you think about it, what does a bottom really do? It for me, and I hit a bottom, right? A bottom finally has me willing to do something about my problem, right? And intervention's the same thing, right? We can, through communication and through love, right? We can create this environment where they can see what's going on clearly and then make a decision to do something about it. So it can either come from pain or it can also come from love. Pain and love, those are, I think, are two great teachers in life. And pain doesn't have to be the only, teacher here.
Exactly.
We can do it with love as well. And I think that's our whole model.
Yeah, there are many times that an individual actually would crave and want someone to intervene on them, but they can't say that until the person is intervened and their life changes and they like, oh my God. And having the love coming from the love of the family, where the trauma of the family then coming together will be part of the healing to start.
Yeah. I think listen, not all interventions.
No.
No, but you're right. You're right. There are people that a part of them has been dying for this. And this is what I tell families when we're preparing for the process, like there's more than likely, if I had to bet, there's a part of them, there's a small part of them that wants there to be a way, that wishes there could be a way, different way. It just doesn't know how to get there. That's what this whole process is about, is coming together and tapping into that small part that's obscure, that's small, that's covered in a bunch of fear and all this kind of stuff. But this whole process is about getting to that small piece of them that wants there to be a different way.
Sure. So speaking about a different way, let's tell the listeners some of the things that have changed in your life.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know where to begin. I think it's worth, if we could go back, right? I think it's worth mentioning, because it's a big part of my story. I ended up getting sober, right? From that Tuesday night in 95 or 96. You do know after this, I'm going to look through old calendars and figure out what it is, right? It's going to drive me crazy. To 2001, to getting incarcerated, to going to the state rehab, right? There's another part of that chapter. There's another chapter of that story, I should say, which, I get out of treatment, the state-run rehab, and I moved to Delray in January 2004 and did well for a while. Did okay, right? But I didn't really do what the rehab told me to do. They said go to AA, and I kind of listened, but mostly didn't. Did my own thing. I started working, started making money, started going to the beach. And then I found myself, I had completely regressed and relapsed and basically found myself in a 7-day psychosis from post-acute withdrawal syndrome. I had started using pain medication and other things again, tried to stop on my own. Terrible idea.
Right.
Detoxes exist for a reason.
Right.
And I didn't sleep for 7 nights, just stayed up and ended up going into a psychosis and was Baker acted at Fair Oaks Pavilion.
And that was just somebody saw that you needed help?
Yeah, you never know what the hand of the universe looks like. That night, the hand of the universe was a friend just out of nowhere, just stopping by. And he saw the condition I was in. And I was literally out of my mind.
Wow.
And he was like, whoa. And he didn't really know what to do. He was ill-equipped. What do you do with a crazy person? I literally thought my apartment was like a restaurant. And I was like a waiter. And I was walking around taking care of tables.
Wow.
Simon concurrent.
That must have been really scary for your friend.
For him, for me.
For you too.
He got to me. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but long story short, he saw me and was like, whoa. And he just dropped me off at the hospital. And
good for him.
Yeah. Thank God. No, thank God. Again, you never know what the hand of, you never know what it looks like. And they took mercy on me at the ER and saw my condition and said, we're going to Baker Act you. And then I was like, but why?
I need to go back and wait tables.
Mind you, I won't even get it. It was, Baker acting me was the right thing to do. We'll go ahead and say that. I was, not well. And if I had stayed in that state any longer, I may have never come back. It was very dangerous. And went to a psych ward and finally got some sleep, which was really I was sleep deprived.
Sure.
Right. And I woke up and I remembered everything. All the, there, also in my delusions, I thought MTV was following me around doing a reality TV show about me.
Mm-hmm.
There was a militia also following me, like with AR-15. Like it was weird.
Wow, that is scary.
Very scary, very weird stuff, but I remembered all of it. And I went in front of the psychiatrist because they were going to discharge me. And it was on a 72-hour Baker Act home. They needed the bed. It's a county facility. And this doctor, God bless him, and I talk about this a lot when I tell my story, like I couldn't pick this guy out of the lineup. No idea who he is. But he sat me down and he's like, do me a favor. And I was like, all right. He's like, turn around. And I turned around. We were in his office and I looked through this big picture window into the day room. And I saw, people yelling at walls. I saw a lady, I'll never forget this, a lady cradling a shampoo bottle like it was a baby. And he said, they get their mail here. Some of these people get their mail here. It's like, they're going to spend Thanksgiving, Christmas here. He's like, you're going home. He's like, I don't know what you're doing. I don't know what you're not doing. And frankly, it's none of my business. But if you're doing what I think you're doing, you should stop. And you should go to AA. And I was like, and I heard, like,
wow.
I heard him.
Yeah.
And for the first time in a long time, and I like to talk about it like this window opened up and I could see myself clearly through this window. And what I could see was I'm an alcoholic and a drug addict.
You can't return there.
Yeah. And I can't drink or do drugs safely and I can't stop or say stop on my own.
Right.
I need help. Like I need help. And I walked out of that psych ward. That was September 12th, 2005. And I haven't used or drank or even really thought of it since then. And, because I had other experiences like that where like, my window would open, but it would close. I would see myself like, you got to stop. And then it would close. But something was different this time. And the main thing that was different is I went to my 12-step program and I just dove all in. Whatever they said to do, I did.
It scared you enough.
It was, yes, it was terrifying. I literally thought I was going to be insane for the rest of my life. I thought I was going to stay in that state.
Sure.
But the tricky thing is, and I think this is important to talk about, like that fear was amazing because it was a great motivator. Like desperation's a gift, they say, but it's only a gift if you assign a commitment to it, right? And so I was terrified of returning to that state and having that experience again of that pain and so that pushed me in the doors of recovery. But the thing is, I realized, and AA taught me this, is that that's only going to last for so long, that fear and that pain. Eventually, it's going to kind of get smaller and smaller and smaller. What are you going to do then? And that's where like actual recovery and the steps and fellowship and community, that comes in because it pulls you rather than just solely being pushed by fear. Because I walked in out of desperation, but I stayed because of inspiration.
Right.
And so that me crossing that line, I think that was the difference, because before I would just rely on the fear of my past rather than like looking to the future and being pulled by something. And there's a difference between running from something but heading towards something else. Sure. And, I've been sober ever since. And to your point, like my life today is, it's amazing. I do what I love with people that are really cool. I love my work. It's not really, it's a career. It's all those things. It's work, it's career, but it's like, I literally think it's what I'm here to do.
And you're giving a lot of hope and inspiration.
I mean, I hope.
Yes.
No pun intended, I hope.
You are.
Thank you. It just feels really good to like have something that is backed by like, purpose.
Sure.
And a knowing, like this is what I'm here to do. I have a mentor, him, that says like, and I always think about this. He's like, firemen, they show up to the scene, they know what they're there to do. They're not scratching their head. They're not like, oh, did you bring the hose? Like they know what they're doing. And like, I kind of feel that way. And I like specifically the intervention piece, like it's a very like,
it's a natural progression.
For me, it seems to be, and I feel really comfortable. That doesn't mean I'm not like scared sometimes or, I don't get confused or whatever.
There's certain circumstances that come up, like anything.
But
be prepared for it.
I'm just, it feels right and it feels natural and it literally, it feels like it's what I'm supposed to do. And so I love that. I got married a couple years ago to
a lovely wife.
She's amazing. Yeah. She's a beautiful human being. I think the wording is, I outkicked my coverage, or I'm batting out of my league. She's amazing and her family is really amazing. And I'm really grateful for them. Yeah. And we bought a home and
there are a lot of things to be grateful for, right?
Yeah, I love my dog. We were talking about our dogs. I have these two, most of the good things that have happened now were my wife's idea and I rebelled. And then it's now it's I don't know what I would do without that.
Sure.
And so
that's kind of a relationship.
Yeah.
Sometimes there's a push and pull in regard to, what the person wants and then being able to give that to them, as well as then accepting I don't know why, I've had the same thing with my husband. It's the first time I wanted to go on a cruise and he's like, I don't like cruises. Have you ever been on one?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
So, and loved it.
Yeah.
Of course, those are things that are, in a relationship, a healthy relationship, right?
Yeah. I can't the things that she brings to the table. I have a natural instinct sometimes to be like, oh, that's crazy, but it's always worked out. And so now I try to say yes and
be open.
And she's a beautiful soul.
Sure.
She really is. And I love her to death and I love our dogs. And, sobriety recovery, I'll call it, has been very good to me, but there's this other side where and this, but my brother and my mother, they both died from drug overdoses. My mom died in 2010. And then my brother, oddly, coincident, whatever word you want to use, sadly, tragically, or better words, died in almost the same exact way from a pill overdose alone, right? 7 years later in 2017. And that's been hard,
Yeah, losing family members to drug and alcohol use. When you're in recovery too, it's why them and not me, right? And celebrate the life that you have.
Yeah. I think, because you're right, being a man in recovery who has this career, it's almost what? It's not supposed to happen, but I don't.
Yeah, it happens to anyone.
Anyone. And I think the hand of recovery or God or whatever you want to call it, it's available to everybody. I'm not chosen. I'm not I'm not specially ordained. The hand of God's available to everybody. The hand of recovery is available to everybody. Everybody's chosen. For whatever reason, some people don't choose back.
Right.
And I can't solve that. I'm not going to be the guy that figures that out. All I can do is just do my best to live my life in a certain way that honors my recovery, honors them. And it taught me a lot. Their deaths, as painful and as hard as they were, and they still are, it's still a painful thing.
Sure.
It's taught me that I'm sober today, not because I'm terrified of drugs or alcohol. I'm sober today because I love my life.
Yeah. You're living your life to the fullest.
I try, I still, I like my routines and I get stuck. I really do. And again, thank God for my wife who pulls me out of that. At least 2-3 times a week, my wife is online looking at trips and I'm like, oh, geez.
Where are we going now?
Yeah. Okay.
And then when you get there, you love it.
And when I get the first few hours, I'm just kind of navigating it in my head, figuring it out. And then, by hour 5 or 6, I'm I'm having.
Hey, as long as they have food there, then it's all good.
Yeah. Luckily, the places that she usually finds for us have buffets, i.e. the cruises.
Of course.
So we're good. Yeah, we're good. So.
Well, Thatcher, this has been great. I really appreciate you coming in and sharing this powerful story. And if anyone would like to have a conversation with you privately about this, we have a number. It will be discussed at the closure, and to have they can ask for Thatcher Shively and have that conversation, as well as anyone else in our company that does work with interventions and intakes. But I appreciate you taking the time today. And
awesome.
Have a wonderful Memorial Day weekend with your family.
I will. Thank you so much, man. Appreciate you.
Thank you for joining the conversation today. If you are seeking help for yourself or a loved one, please reach out to our Feinberg Consulting team at 248-538-5425. That's 248-538-5425, and check out our website at feinbergcare.com. I'm grateful for our guests and all who have joined us today. Make sure you follow us on Apple, Spotify, or anywhere you listen to podcasts.